Hey everybody, hey, happy Sunday. We are here. I'm getting everything set up so we can go ahead and get started. I think I have, yeah. All right, we're here. All right, so I'm gonna give everyone just a couple minutes to hop on, see if I can adjust this over just a little bit more. Aha. It's only taken me like 8 weeks to figure out the right camera angles to do this stuff. So, but we're getting there. By the last week, I'll be a pro. Probably not, but I'll try. Hi, Kit. So it is week 8 of our skill builder, and tonight we're going to be stitching up stuffies. So for this week, I did include 2 different files, the pencil and the crayon. But I'm going to go ahead and stitch up the pencil because that is probably, I would say, the more complicated of the 2, and it's not complicated. There's just like additional applique steps that you're not going to have on the crayon. So I feel the pencil would be the good thing because there's basically 2 applique pieces there that are a little different. So as opposed to the one on the crayon. So for this, I am using Badge Master Water Soluble Stabilizer, which you will probably remember from the week that we did patches. You can use tearaway for this too. That's totally fine. I just like the Badge Master because it's easy to rip away and I can wash away and it doesn't get torn away without all the little pieces to dig out later. So I'm cool with that. Pierre, I have this giant 20-pound box, I think it is, of, yeah, 20 pounds of polyfill stuffing that I bought, not understanding what 20 pounds of stuffing actually looks like. So this box is ginormous. It was alarming when it arrived at my doorstep. And I think I probably have enough stuffing to last several lifetimes at this point. And I thought about, there is this like silky polyester stuffing that Polyfill makes too. That's like more squishable like, and it's really kind of soft and squishable. It's a little pricier, but it's not too bad. And I thought about getting some of that, but I literally have 20 pounds of stuffing to get through, so I can't justify buying a different kind until I use this. So basically I'll be using this for the rest of my life. Hi Mona. So I've got the stabilizer all ready to go, the design loaded to my machine. I'm going to be doing the 6x10 size of the pencil. So with the larger sizes, I know that I mentioned in the event page, I'll be using Minky for mine since it's a larger size. I prefer Minky for the 5x7 and larger designs, and I prefer just plain old cheap fleece for the minis. Because when you're doing the mini sizes, if you're using Minky, which let me show you my Minky over here. So Minky has this like kind of nap to it. You can kind of see there. And what happens when you are stitching smaller areas like a face on a mini size is those small details can kind of get lost in that nap or that pile that the Minky has. That's why I prefer the fleece for the smaller sizes. And you can use fleece in the larger sizes too. It's no problem. I just like the feel of the Minky better. So that's why I opt for that in the larger sizes. It just kind of feels squishier. Yeah, Penny, it's so much stuffing. You don't understand. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Ann. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started. I've already cut my Minky to size for this. If you're not sure what to cut your size for your materials, I like to run the first stitch on placement. First stitch is a placement stitch you want on a stabilizer. And that will also give you what measurements you need to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that started. Because that way you can measure that if you're not really sure. Generally I kind of cut for the stuffies, I generally kind of cut the materials to about my hoop size. So I'm gonna be looking at about, honestly, a 6x10 hoop is a little larger than 6x10, so I probably cut like 7x11. I was using a 6x10, but I was doing a 5x7. My main fabric, I would look probably to do like, I don't know, like maybe like a 6.5, 7 by like 9, something like that, just so it covers all of my stitches up. I don't have to worry about getting too close, and I'm not too exact when I cut, so I just want to make sure that I'm covering everything there. So first up is right on my stabilizer. So my next step, using the pencil, is put my backing fabric on. So this is the main piece we're gonna be seeing on the front of the design. So regardless of what stuff you're using, if it's your crayon, whatever, different kind, it's just the main piece. It's our background of the stuffy. So for me, that's yellow. And a quick note about fleece and Minky, there is a direction of stretch on fleece and Minky. Minky is typically not four-way stretch, and that means that it stretches in all directions. Usually Minky will just stretch kind of in one direction. It doesn't have a huge amount of stretch, and that's fine. Fleece, on the other hand, is a little stretchier, more four-way stretch often. You want, when you're laying this down, you want your stretchiest side, your stretchiest direction to be horizontal on these. Okay, so when you stuff it, it's not distorted. So if your only stretches one way, when you cut your material, make sure it's stretching so it's horizontal across the design. So I've just found that it kind of like lays better when you stuff it to have that stretch going horizontally across it. But it's not gonna like mess everything up in the whole world, but you'll just like the results a little better. So I've got my main fabric down, and I'm gonna run the next step to tack down this material to the stabilizer. When you're doing this, it's gonna kind of shift a little bit too. Just kind of watch it as it goes. And if you need to kind of just move stuff around, do that. But once you get that down, you'll be golden. So just kind of watch it. Make sure it's not bunching up on you somewhere. I just kind of use my hands. I'm not really putting a lot of pressure. I'm just making sure it's not getting folded. It's not bunching up on me somewhere. And another thing with these two, if you have the option on your machine to raise your presser foot, this is a good project to do that on, especially as we start adding some more layers to it with the applique pieces. It'll just make it easier so it's not pushing and distorting your fabric as you're going. But here's my pro tip here. If you do raise your presser foot on this, make sure that when you're done doing stuffies, you put that presser foot back down to the factory setting, because machines don't like to have the foot raised when you're not doing thicker materials. And then you'll be really upset when your machine's stitching horribly, think your machine's broken. No, just the presser foot. So raise it for this, but definitely put it back down when you're done with stuffies. Jennifer, this is Badge Master. So have you wash away. Carol, I am doing the pencil first, but you can do whatever you want. The pencil's going to take a little longer than the crayon, but essentially it's going to be the same thing. We just have like a couple extra applique pieces we're going to be tossing on that you're not going to have to toss on with the crayon. All right, so now we have our material tacked down onto our fabric. We're going to move on to the placement stitches for our first applique on the pencil, which is that bottom piece there. So next up is going to be just directly on here. It'll just run around real quick and give us our placement area so we know where to stitch add to the brown fabric here. It's a little harder to see, probably on camera than it is in real life for our placement stitches, but this is just like all the appliques we've been doing up to this point. So we have our first of applique is going to be those placement stitches. If you can kind of see where, I can't really get on camera very well for you, the machine is right now. We got a little triangle here, and that is our placement area. So our next step is to put down our fabric for the applique. Again, I'm going to check the direction of stretch. I like it to be horizontal. This actually brown stretches much more than the yellow, so you can see it stretches this way, but it doesn't stretch this way. So I want to put that direction of stretch horizontal across the design. And again, that's just my preference. It's not going to mess up anything terribly if you don't do it that way. I just find that it works better when you stuff it to have them all kind of uniform and all going horizontally. All right, so my next step here, in fact, I'm going to raise my pressure foot now. I haven't done that yet. So give me 1 second to do that. All right. And hopefully I raised it enough here. If not, I'll have to catch my foot and... Why are you not? Oh, I guess I should attach the frame. That usually generally helps a lot more, doesn't it, when I actually put the frame on? Crazy how that works. It doesn't like to stitch when the frame's not actually locked into the machine. All right, now we're good. All right, so now we're gonna tack down. And with this too, I do like to use contrast stitching. I know I've talked before in appliques when I'm doing appliques so I can see what I'm cutting, especially when I'm doing minky where that stitch is kind of initially gonna get distorted in here. We're gonna add some water-soluble topper here in a minute, but I like to lay kind of the big pieces down first before I do that, because it makes it easier when you're cutting those pieces out before you add the topper, because the topper kind of just gets in the way. So we will add that in, yeah, so Robin, so we'll add the wash away on top in just a minute. I want to get the pieces down first so we can see what we're doing. And then when we go to actually do the stitching on those pieces, we'll add the wash away on top then. Because if you add it before this point when we're adding applique pieces, you're just going to be cutting it away anyways. So I just add it later. All right, so here I am. I'm now going to go ahead and trim up the applique pieces. Honestly, with this being a stuffy, this bottom piece here, you really don't need to cut those pieces off if you don't want to, because it's going to get hidden when we go back over. So really, you just need to cut this top piece off on the applique. I probably will trim those up because I'm extra, but you really don't need to. It'll be covered here in a few minutes. All right, so I'm gonna get this off. And it's so hard to do this on frame, but I'm gonna try. So really, like I said, you really just need to be trimming up this top piece here, because this will all get kind of hidden when we add the back to it and we finish the design, but I just like to see what I'm doing. When you're cutting minky, you might get some pieces cut into the scissors. It's fine. It's going to get covered with the satin stitches we're going to run later, so don't worry about it. Also, kind of go in slow. You don't want to cut into your stitches. You may need to go back and do it a second or even a third time to get all your pieces. And it's way easier if you go to a table than sitting kind of crooked on your machine bed here, but probably just have my hand the entire way. So here's my top piece right there. Trim that around. I will go back in and kind of clean this up. And minky gets everywhere. It's okay, don't worry about it. It's just a mess. You're gonna be wearing it and breathing it. It is what it is. All right, so let me go ahead and take a second, and I'm gonna trim these other pieces here, but like I said, you really don't need to. If you wanna skip it, you can, because it'll get covered here. But I always feel like obligated to trim it up, so I am. All right. Hi, Kelly. All right, so I'm not worried about the messiness that's down here with this, because it's, like I said, it's gonna be covered, but I will take a second to kind of go up here at this top and just trim up any loose pieces that are up here. On the stuffies, the satin that I use on the design is pretty wide, so it generally kind of covers that up better, so you're not having those like little leaky pieces, those little leak pieces of fuzz that don't want to get covered. But so don't fret too much, but just try and get them out of there. And again, we have minky everywhere. It's fine. All right, so now here is where I am. I have my pencil wood down there. Again, I'm not worried about the loosey-goosey edges here because it's going to get hidden. That top line here, since that's going to be visible when we finish the design, make sure that's your straightest area of that applique. The next step we're going to do is placement for the eraser. So I'm going to run that real quick. My dog just ran down here with her zoomies. Come on, go be crazy somewhere else. Alright, so we have our placement stitches here for the eraser right here. If you can kind of see, I'm kind of off camera now, just this top part here. I am going to lay my eraser fabric right on top. Again, I'm checking the direction of stretch. I want that stretch to be horizontal. And I'm just going to plop that in there. And then just, again, my machine likes it a lot more when I load the hoop on. Guys, go be crazy somewhere else. All right, so next thing here, we're going to tack down our eraser fabric. And same thing like I did when I did the first tack down on the yellow. I'm gonna just kind of watch it to make sure it is not gonna like drag on me, get puckered up, get folded. My arm's like probably right in your way, but just watching that. And you'll see why it's more important. See how it's kind of digging in there? That's why we raised our presser foot. I bumped mine up to like 2.5. I probably could go farther, just because it's less likely to drag that material and distort it on you. And if you don't have that option on your machine, you should, but if you don't, just keep an eye on it. And just make sure it's not pulling your fabric on you. Hi, Christy. I know, Kelly, I was lucky. I was going through the pinks and oh my gosh, I actually do have a pink eraser color. Didn't have a great one for the wood, but we're making it work. All right, so same thing. Now we're gonna trim that up. Like the pencil, like the wood on there, really the most important part to trim up neatly is going to be this bottom line, because those side and top edges are going to get hidden when we add our backing to this later, but I'll trim them all up. But the most important part to focus on, or if you're trying to do this quickly, is just get that bottom line there, get that trimmed up. So again, I'm trying to do this on camera in a really awkward angle, but oops, see, it's falling on my lap. Sorry, I can't do it. I gotta bring it to my lap. I can't see what I'm doing. But I'm trimming just like I did the bottom piece and just like I've done all the appliques before in the other weeks we've done. Almost there. A couple pieces I want to clean up a little bit along the bottom here. And once we get this trimmed up, that's when we're going to add our topper. So now we don't have to worry about cutting it. And once we have it in place, we've got it in place. All right, so here is where we are now. Where's my, oh, funny because some of my stabilizer got tacked down on the back there. I didn't trim it up very well before we went on, but we're good. It's fine. All right. So here is where we're at. So again, I trimmed that bottom part of the eraser. That was the area I really focused on getting nice and neat because these top and sides look kind of crazy. It's fine. It's going to get covered up. So here's where we're going to add the backing to it. Kit, I have some duck bow applique scissors and I don't like them as much. I think I'm just not like, I don't know. I have these pair of Tula like 4-inch duck bows. I use them sometimes, but I don't like them in my hand as much as I do my little Kai 4 or 5-inch applique scissors. I just like these better. And I think honestly, a lot of applique scissors are just personal preference. Like you just kind of find what you like best. Like if you like the duck bill style, you like the curve style. I don't know if they're right or wrong. It's just kind of what works best for you. All right, so here is gonna be my little trick with the water soluble stabilizer. So here's where I'm gonna add it. It does not matter whether you use a plasticky topper or if you like to use more of the mesh topper, which, where's my mesh topper? Like, oh, and it looks like, I sprayed it when I was like doing something at the pressing table and that's not gonna work, but this is the mesh topper. Can't see through it, and honestly it's easier to work with than the plastic topper because you don't worry getting like wrapped up under your pressure foot as much. The only downside to it is that you have to wash it before you can stuff it. You can't just kind of pull it away like you can the plastic topper, so either one works fine. You just have to babysit the plastic topper more. I'm gonna use plastic topper so I can just strip it over when we're done. Here's my little trick for this. So I'm going to put this down. So you obviously want to secure this really well, okay? This topper here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to raise my pressure foot a little bit more. If I can get to it. I'm actually going to go back to the very first step. You do not have to do this, but I'm going to go back to the very first step and I'm going to tack down my topper this way, versus having to worry about like pinning it and doing all that stuff. That's just me. You can just pin it, tape it, use magnets, whatever you want to do to get it down. But I find if I just go back to the very first step, back my machine up a little bit, then I don't have to worry about a topping so much. So I'm going to go back to the very first step here. And now I'm going to tack down this topper. See how it wants to pucker already? That's just the nature of this waterproof stopper here. So I'm going to move over here. And I'm gonna kind of keep my hand here and kind of make sure that it's not getting bunched up on me because it's gonna want to get bunched up. Just kind of hold it. It's okay if it gets bunched a little bit, but if you get like these big areas that get bunched up, it's gonna be catching on your foot and it's gonna drag. And again, this is just my preference on how to add the topper. Doesn't have to be super neat. It can be puckered in some areas. You just don't want it where it gets in there and it really gets puckered up, and then it'll start ripping when you're stitching, and then that's when you have problems with your foot getting caught on it. So once we have this done and added, we don't have to worry about this topper anymore. It's going to be pretty much out of our way. There we go. No needles. No tape, none of that stuff. So now our topper's on. All right, so we're gonna go back to where we were in the design, which is the lines and the pencil lead. So we are gonna go back to, let me find the step we were on. We're on step 7. All right, so for this, I'm gonna load black into my machine. Sorry, my hand's like right there in your face as I still haven't taken my good machine into the shop to figure out what's going on with it, so I have to do the manual threading. All right, so we are on to pencil lead in the lines. So yeah, Jennifer, the bunching, the clear topper is kind of a pain in the butt, but honestly, like once it's easier for me for stuffies and things, so I don't have to throw them in the washer when I'm done. That's the only reason I like it. But it generally is much harder to work with than the mesh stuff. And honestly, I feel like the mesh stuff does give better results in like dense areas of designs. Like if you're stitching on towels and things, and the towel design's kind of dense, I would opt for the mesh. But on things like this, none of it's like super dense. So I'm gonna opt for the plaster topper just to be done with it quicker. In fact, I think I need to lower my pressure foot just a little bit again now that we got that down. You can see that. Just a little bit now that we got that done. Yeah, I know the needle's down. I just wanna raise the pressure foot or lower it a little bit. All right, I'm gonna lower it back down a little bit now that we got that on. Probably here in a minute the longest part of the entire stitching process, which is going to be that little pencil up there at the bottom. It's a fill area. I opted not to do an applique portion on that because it's kind of a smaller area, but this will take probably the longest time now just stitching that out. So it's not going to be probably a good 10 minutes of just watching that stitch. And on this design, like I keep talking about too, I do have my machine speed slowed down. I want to say I'm at like 350, 400 stitches per minute. I'm going to always preach about slowing your machine down unless you have like a commercial industrial machine that's really designed to do that. Most domestic machines aren't designed to really stitch that fast. So you'll get better results and a little crisper results by slowing your machine down. You're probably sick of hearing me say that every single week if you've been here for most of the weeks. I talk about it every week. And what you might notice too on like fill areas on Minky is that sometimes because of the way Minky is, it might push some of your fabric over a little bit towards the edges. And that's okay, it's gonna get covered. Your final pass when we put the backing on for this is gonna be a little smaller than the front is. So usually those little imperfections and where things might get smushed over a little bit because of the fabric are gonna get covered anyway, so don't fret about it. Actually, Carol, I do have the same design in the crayon in testing for mug ropes. So that will be out probably this week before I go. But honestly, Carol, you could. I mean, if you wanted to do all the stitches with this too, I mean, you could use this design for the mug rope too. The difference you're probably going to see for the most part is like the satins covering the appliques aren't going to be as big because I don't, on stuffies, you'll find the satins are generally wider when I do them because I don't want it to sink into the nap of the material. little wider than normal designs, but you could still use the same thing. You would just have little fatter eyes and smile. And I'll have the option for the envelope back too, so that'll be different. Or returning if you don't want to. And if you're stitching a smaller size in the 6x10, you'll notice that this will actually stitch a lot faster because it's a smaller area stitch. I have some designs, Carol, like I'm going to do for teachers in school when I get back, depending. So I'll be on vacation Wednesday of next week until basically Wednesday the next week. So I'm going to see where I'm at with how many teacher designs and stuff I can get kind of pushed out because the school's coming up quick. So I'm going to see. Carol, I'm stoked. I'll actually, this will be the first time in I don't know how many years. I won't even have access to internet for a couple days because we're going on a cruise for a few days, part of our vacation. So, and I refuse to pay for the internet package. It seems like that's, I don't know. So, it'll be kind of like I'm in 1998 again. I'll be back in high school, early college, where I don't have a cell phone. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, Jennifer, I need to get on the more school stuff. I was just really trying to wrap up kind of designs I had started for. I want to make sure that all the bundles are done before I leave for the mystery and for like the mega bundle. So I'm really trying to like push out kind of what I had going, but hopefully when I come back, I'll look at and see what kind of school stuff we still need. I know, Carol, I have not disconnected, and I don't know how long. I don't even take breaks, like Facebook breaks or anything. So it will be the first time that I will not be reachable. So I told my family, like, there, you know, my parents, and I said, like, there will be no emergencies for that weekend. None. Everyone's got to be okay for a weekend. Almost there. The longest part stitching is this little black piece here at the bottom, the pencil lead. Carol, I can't either. I can't disconnect. Yeah, but Jennifer, like, so I'm a little nervous, to be honest. Like, so don't ever disconnect, but I think it'll be refreshing. It will be liberating once I get past the initial, like, oh my gosh, I can't get a hold of anyone, no one can get a hold of me, and there's nothing I'm like super worried about. Gus is going to a dog sitter, I've got someone kind of taking care of the cats, like, I'm not too worried, like, I'm gonna miss anything, like, catastrophic. And obviously in the embroidery world, like, I can't imagine any emergency that's gonna happen that is gonna require my presence for 3 days. I'm pretty sure that most embroidery incidences are not life-threatening or emergencies, so it'll be fine. Actually, while this is wrapping up stitching, I'll talk know. If you're doing the minis, so on the minis, there'll be a step right before we add the backing. That is going to be a little tab at the top that you can add elastic. But there's an alternative that you can do if you're doing the minis. So what I use on mine, I have the design set up that I use fold over elastic, the same elastic we used on the notebook covers last week. And these little lobster clasp situations. And usually I'll just cut the elastic. How much is that? Like, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches. And what I'll do is the top of the design, I will put the edges, pretend this is much shorter. I don't want to cut it too short because I might use it for something else. But I'll put the top edges at the top of the design, so my top's here. And I'll tack that down so the loop will be towards the inside there. And then I'll add this hardware later. This is called a doohickey. It's from So Hungry Hippie. I don't know if she has one anymore, but I do know that Glitter Bug Fairy has some, but I honestly don't know what they're supposed to be really called. But the ring opens up, that way you don't have to worry about like sewing hardware in if you're doing the mini, because it makes me nervous, but that's just me because I'm always nervous. But that is an option too. The other option if you're doing a mini is yourself some satin cording. So this is 1mm cording, and there's 2mm cording. Get yourself a tapestry or an upholstery needle where that eye is pretty big, and you can get both the 2mm and obviously the 1mm. So on that. And what you can do is you can loop that on and get these little plastic clips here, loop it through there, then take your needle. You should have, I probably should show you this when it's done so you can see what I'm talking about, but basically you're gonna go from your finished design, right? So it's turned the right way, and you're gonna pull it through to the top on one side, and switch over this piece. And do the same thing on. I'm gonna show you when we're done because this probably isn't making much sense. Like a discombobulated thread needle here, but I'll show you when we're done. Pretend it's a mini, and I'll show you then, because that'll be way easier than what I'm trying to explain right now, probably. So I realize now, me saying, oh, do this, do that, probably makes no sense when you can't even visualize what I'm talking about. So I'll show you when we're done. And the same thing applies to, like, if you're doing a stuffie that has 2 hoopings. Generally the first hooping is like arms or legs or whatever kind of feature it might have. You'll do that first, and you'll pull those out of your hoop, flip them the right way, and then there'll be an area on your stuffie via placement, and your raw edge is always going to go lined up with the line that's going to show you. So if it's ear or foot or whatever, that raw edge will be lined up with the raw edge of what will be your design. So it's going to be flipped inward. So that way when you turn your whole design, that leg or ear or whatever will flip out with it. It probably looks more complicated than it's really not. I probably should have done like a 2-step one for this, but I didn't think about it. I thought pencils were more like back to schoolish. Maybe I'll run like a mini or something when I get back with like arms or something and show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we're done with the longest part here. All right, so now we're gonna go on to the top of our eraser here. So that gray part, kind of good silver. This is a good silver. Throw it at the machine. So now we're on to our satin there. Now that I'm looking, I probably should have trimmed up a little bit closer there on that edge, but we'll try and trim it up with some scissors when we're done. Just, I think what happens with the Minky Sims with that longer nap, it kind of gets pushed down. And that was my fault. We can trim most of that up. Since it's just going to be like loose kind of fuzz that's kind of coming off, we can trim that up. And it may happen more often too if the Minky that you're using has got more kind of a pile to it, if it's like thicker and fluffier, especially if you're using things like faux fur. It may happen more often, so you may need to trim some of those up when you're done, but it happens. And also you notice too, as you're going, if you're using a plastic topper, when you're going on satins, it might start pulling up to the top. If you can even kind of see up here, it's pulling up with my hand right in your way. And that's okay, because we're pretty much, it's a job up there now, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. So don't panic if you see that. It's normal. Almost done with that part. Okay, so we're done with the top. We're going to go on to our bottom here on the pencil lead. I hope that I have a brown thread close enough to that. We're just going to wing it. What do I have? That looks too dark. Let's see, what's this? Oh, that's pretty close. We'll go with that. And sorry, my hand's like right in your face as I thread this. I miss my good machine. And I may have the same situation with that too, that I didn't push that down as much as I should have, but I think we'll be okay. Yeah, it's not going to be as noticeable down there. I think the pink was a little fluffier on me than the brown was. And after this, all we have to do is do the face and then add our back to it, and then we'll be ready to clean it up and stuff it. If you're doing a smaller size, like a 5x7 the mini, you're probably already like waiting to for me to catch up to where you are if you're going along, because it's do stitch faster. I love doing, so my biggest hoop is 9 by 14, and I love the 9 by 14 size of the stuffies, but man, it takes a while to stitch. Some people will ask me why I didn't do the pencil lead the same time as I did the eyes. And that's because I want to leave people the option to change their eye color if they wanted to, if they wanted to do the eyes and mouth in white or whatever. So I really did think about that. I promise that I'm not crazy. It wasn't a mistake. You'll notice in my designs too, I'll probably have more color stops than maybe initially would think, because I want to make sure that people have the option to swap colors out and things aren't just going to be combined together where you have to like watch it and stop it on your own. So on things like that, I'll do that. I'll break up the base, or I'll break up like text fonts and things like that. When you stitch cows, like I'll have each line be a different color, even if they're using the same two colors. That way you can break it up and stitch it however you want to stitch it up. Too. The stabilizer topper is pulling a little bit along the top here. It's fine. It's done what we needed it to do. Don't worry about it if it's doing it to you, but it's normal. We're ready to do our face. We're gonna do the pink cheeks first. See if I can find the similar pink to that eraser. Let's see what I got. Probably not. It's like a dusty rose color, and that's like one color I don't think I really have, but we'll do this one. That works. Do our little cheeks. The cheeks will take a minute too. They're kind of dense. Just to make sure they cover all of the nap and the minky, and go over the lines there. So it'll take a few minutes to do too, but not quite as long as the pencil lead did. And if you're doing the mini, it's going to be way faster because it's not a fill area. So it'll take even less time. It's a different kind of stitches. So the longest you're going to get is if you're doing the 5x7 or larger on the cheeks. I think we were just going to do just the pencils for tonight. So we're not here till 11. But it's totally up to you. But I think we'll just do one together tonight. I was initially thinking about doing like both and doing a mini of each, but I thought it'd be more helpful if we did the larger one. So I'm just going to kind of stick to the one tonight. I mean, I'll hang till 11:30, but I think y'all might get bored by then. The worst thread color for it. Like if it's gonna start like skipping stitches or shredding thread, for some reason it's like pink. I don't understand. And it doesn't matter the thread brand, but that's like the one. My machines don't like pink. I don't understand it. Knock on wood, we're doing okay with this machine, but I'm like, I don't get why pink is like a big issue. I know some people will say that they'll have issues with like certain black threads in their machine or even like white thread, but for me it seems to be pink. I don't know. I don't know what the embroidery rules are with that. Like the embroidery gremlins, but for me they decided pink is the color that they like to do those scrubs with. Just because I use it so much too. Ew! Jennifer, that's gross. 4:30 is gross. We had to get up at like 4 to get to the airport on Wednesday, but that's for like fun stuff, so it doesn't really bother me. And obviously I don't want to get up that early, but I'm okay with it. Not for work though. Ew. I don't know, Carol. I get pretty boring after a while. All right, so now we're off to the other pink cheek, and see, look, it did a little loose thread right there on me on the other cheek. So I'm telling you, it hates pink for some reason. I don't get it. If someone has a scientific explanation, I would love to hear it because I don't know what it is. But it's always pink. And you can see the topper is like pulling all the way down, which actually will help us when we get to we're pulling it off the machine, because then it'll be like less to have to tear away. Oh, see, I'm way more of a night person than a morning person. I've never been a morning person. And I used to do it when I worked at the hospital. For years, I did evening shift there, and I loved it. I didn't even say do like night shift was fine with it. For some reason, it was day shift, and get up early just kills me, it wrecks me. But if you need me to pull an all-nighter, I got you. But please don't ask me to get up early. And Kit, you need to go to bed. You're going to be tired tomorrow. Oh, 3:30 is terrible too. Y'all are way better at being adults than I am. Because I'm like, normally during the school year, my husband gets the kids up and kind of gets them out the door because I'm not as functional as he is in the morning. But we're talking, I usually get up around like 7:30, and I feel like that's early. And I know it's really not compared to a lot of people, but I'm just like you. I'm the night owl, not the morning person. Oh, Bobby, I don't know. I can get by on little sleep like for a limited amount of time. Like it's like a day or two, I'll be okay. I have insomnia sometimes. So like randomly once every couple months, I'll just randomly just not be able to fall asleep the entire night until an all-nighter. I'm usually okay until I just go to bed early the next day. But after a while, if I have problems sleeping, it just really starts to drain on me. table. And hopefully I will not drop you this week or give you motion sickness. I like to drop my phone randomly. Oh, Robin, this will be our first cruise. I'm excited. Nervous, but excited. We just did a short one this time, in case we do end up hating it. We're only stuck on it for 3 days, so we're doing, we're gonna do Disney like before and after with the like sandwiching kind of a cruise, short cruise in between. And if we like it, I think we'll go for a longer one next year. We just had one Port Jennifer, and it's Nassau. God, am I saying that right? In the Bahamas. So just the one. Yeah, I did get some Dramamine and stuff, just in case we get seasick. And I know I was reading something about how, like, try and get, like, your cabin to be in the middle of the ship, like, all around, to help with that. So I did do that. So hopefully we're okay. I don't really get motion sickness. My daughter does sometimes, but not that often. So I did pack anyways. So crossing my fingers, we're all gonna be okay. All right, so on to the eyeballs. So Christy, we didn't do a Disney cruise this time, but I really wanted to, but it ended up being the same price for us to do just the Carnival cruise for 3 days and to do 4 Disney days. Like, so 2 before, 2 after was the same price as like the 3-day Disney cruise for this one. So we did that one just to make sure we like it. But I think that next time we go, we probably would look at doing like a longer Disney cruise. This was like our introductory thing. And that we hated it, we still had a good Disney trip anyway, so. It is Carnival, so I'm a little worried it's gonna be like a little chaotic, so we'll see. But the only day we're gonna be like stuck on the boat all day is gonna be on Sunday. So figure we can, if it's even super crazy and chaotic, like we can hang for 1 day. We leave Friday night, we'll be in port all day Saturday. So it's really just 1 day on Sunday we're stuck on the boat all day, so. Oh, Halloween would be so fun on a Disney cruise. We went to, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we went to the Disney Halloween party, like at Magic Kingdom. It was after hours. Oh my God, it was so fun. It was so fun. There's like no wait time for any of the rides. Like the kids got to go trick-or-treating. But I was frustrated because I wanted to watch like special shows and parades and stuff during the Halloween party. And my kids just wanted to ride the rides. I wanted to watch the shows. So I didn't get to see any of those, but it was super fun. They do like Halloween right. And I am really not great with a lot of crowds. I said I'm going to Disney, but I'm just like, and I've heard like Christmas time can get super crowded, so I'm like, oh, the kids are a little older, maybe do it like one of the Christmas days for a party there, but Gus, and my dog is down here being goofy again. I don't know why you're here. Yeah, Bobby, the mega bundle for all designs for August will be up until August 1st, so you'll have until, basically I get it back to get it, so you don't have to like rush and get it. You've got some time to get it. Yeah, I feel like I can, and honestly, I feel like I can kind of manage the crowds in Disney though. I mean, they do a pretty good job with crowd control and things, but it's still just so many people. We went last year at this time, the end of July, and it was super hot. hot. Obviously it's Florida in summer, but I mean, it wasn't miserable. It was hot, but it was fine. And it wasn't as crowded as I would have thought, so. All right, so we are ready to add our back. So for this, I'm actually gonna pull off the stabilizer now, or the topper right now, just so it doesn't get wrapped up on me. You don't have to, but it's just my preference. I just like to get it off the edges of the design. And it comes off pretty easy. I'll worry about getting it off out of the center here once I get the whole thing done. But this way I don't worry about it like getting wrapped up and puckering. So take a second for using it and just pull it off of your edges. And then I'm gonna grab my backing piece. Again, I'm checking my stretch, and I am making sure that my stretch is going horizontal across the design. And I'm gonna take a second too, and I'm gonna change the thread color. I'm gonna have the thread color match the main color here, which is yellow. So let me grab a yellow. Yeah, a different yellow. Yeah, that's good. That way it's just, you're not having anything. If you were to get a loose stitch or something in there, it's not going to be as obvious when you turn it. So I like to make sure I use the same color on my last step. All right, so with this one, just like we did the first time, in fact, I'm going to raise my pressure foot height just a bit again, since we're going through more layers. Going up to 3 on mine. Just like I did when we added the topper and that backing, the first fabric we did, I'm just gonna watch it with my hands to make sure it's not gonna get bunched up and drug. And you can see how much that's sinking in. I probably could go up higher on my pressure foot, but as long as I'm not dragging the fabric, I'm not too worried about it. And I should have mentioned this would be right side down. So this is the wrong side of the fabric we're looking at right here, and this is the right side. And again, I'm just watching it so it's not getting bunched up on me, so I can kind of move the fabric if I need to. That's why I like to cut it a little bigger too. It gives me some playing room too if I do need to shift it kind of as we're going. I'm pretty good, but the second I stop doing this, oh, my bobbin thread's almost empty. Are you kidding me? That was great timing. All right, well, I'm gonna pause this so that I can put more bobbin thread in on the very last bit. Isn't that how it always works? All right, technical difficulties. Let me pull this off and change the bobbin. Thanks for running out right now. Yep, I guess we were about out. All right. So again, even though I've done this a million times, I'm still going to check the diagram on the machine because I'm afraid I'm going to put it in wrong. And I have. Right. So that's back on. And then I will put the hoop back on. I'm going to back the stitching up just a little bit to make sure I don't have a loose area stitching. Because if I don't back it up a few stitches when this happens, what may happen is there's going to be an area when I stuff it and turn it that's not going to be as strong in the stitching. So I'm going to back it up. We'll say 10, I'll go 20 stitches back. No, I'll go 30. That'll make me feel better. All right. And now we're back at it. You know, Christy, that's the time it's going to run out. It's like right there at the end. Or right in a bad area when like it's really hard for you to back it up if you're doing like a sketchier fill or something like that, when it's a little more obvious when it runs out. That's usually when it does. And just a reminder too, so next week since I'm out, we will not be doing a stitch along next week, and I won't have a design for next week. I think I already have it ready, but I'm not gonna have it probably in the zip bundle for the skip loader until I get back. So we'll resume, I wanna say it's the third, it's the Sunday, 2 weeks from the day basically. So that's, I put the wrong date in there on the flyer, but the event date is correct. So whether that's Sunday is the 3rd or the 4th. It'll be the same time, and I think we're doing bags next week. So Jennifer's got me, so this is the 4th of the Sunday. Yeah, you can do these in felt too. They're just not quite as squishy, but they're still cute. All right, so we are done with our stitching. So here's what's gonna happen is I'm gonna try to not make you seasick. I'm gonna move you over to my table so we can finish this up together. But again, I can't promise, like, I'm afraid I'm gonna make people seasick, but we're gonna go with that. So right there, are we here? Oh, we're really crooked, aren't we? Okay, how do I make this straight? Are we straight if I go like this? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move this over so you don't have to see the screen because that would be weird. And I just knocked something on the ground. Was that important? No, it was not important. All right, so we are here at the table. All right, and see there's Minky everywhere. What happens when you work with Minky? It's awful. All right, so let's go ahead and unhook this and see my stabilizer got bunched there under the bottom and stitched around in itself, but it's fine. Just cut that off. All right. My hoop out of the way. All right, and just like tear away stabilizer, you can tear away. I use Badge Master. I can tear that away too. Just takes a little more effort to get in there. And I'm gonna rip it off the side just like I would a tearaway, but I don't have those little pieces that I have to wear. My dog is going crazy. What is wrong with you, sir? All right, and I'll do the same thing. Just get those out of there in the center. Seam ripper, so I don't, just make sure you don't cut into your fabric. So I say, look how easy this is, and it wants to be difficult. There we go. Just rip that all away. And the reason you don't want to use cutaway as your stabilizer is because you do want these to stretch a little bit. Because that's the fun part of the stuffies, is to make them squishy. So that's why you don't want to use tearaway or the Badge Master. Something in your hoop that you can tear your material away from. And this design's a little trickier to get it out because I've got all that in the middle of it, but we will get there. And don't be afraid to manhandle it. Your stitches will hold. Almost done. Again, you don't have to get every single little piece out of here too. You just want to make sure there's nothing in your stitches there that's going to cause us to not stretch on you when you do stuff it. All right, there we are. All cleaned up there. There is the back side. Well, the front side rather. Here. And here's this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my scissors and I'm gonna cut around. You notice that your last line of stitching is in a little farther than all the other ones, and that's okay. We wanted to hide all the, you'll see here, there's a lot of like stitches that were here from our applique. We wanted to hide all those. So our last row of stitching is actually a little bit inside all of that. So that'll make it easier for you so nothing's gonna show on you. So go ahead and trim up. Here is, find your turning hole. So it's on this side. Just like we did with the mug rugs, that turning hole side, I'm not gonna cut as close on because I wanna make sure I have plenty to shove it underneath on me. So I'll start here and just trim 1/4 inch or so around all your edges. And this, with multiple layers, when you're cutting, it may shift a little on you and you may have to go back around a little bit and trim it up. You don't have to be like super precise. The closer you can get on that without cutting into it, it's just gonna make it easier and lay flatter for you when you're done, but it's not like super exact here. See how it kind of shifts on you as you cut? That's okay. All right, so now I'm gonna flip it on this side just so I can see where my turning hole is exactly. It's pretty much this whole piece here. So I'm just gonna come in a little bit, trim that down, and I'm up to, yeah, so now I'm good on that. All right, so again, take a second. If you wanna trim a little closer, you can do that. Make sure you don't cut into your stitches. And I find starting with that side here where we can see all those other stitches is easier than starting on this side where you only see the one line of stitches. So I typically will start on this side trimming and then I'll flip it over to see if I need to go a little farther depending on where this is. And again, I'm going to get minky everywhere and it is okay. All right, we are, let me get this little section here. All right, look at this mess. All right, so we're ready to turn. So go ahead and turn it over, smush it out. Use your fingers to kind of push out all those corners and edges. And this is when we can pull off all of our topper there too, that we didn't get before we got it. All right, so here I am. So here you can see, I probably should have got a little closer right here on that pink. And that was my own fault because the pink is a little fuzzier. So what I can do is I can take some applique scissors and kind of come in there and clean that up a little bit. Just making sure I'm not cutting into those stitches, and that'll help kind of reduce the look of that like excess pink there. I'm not gonna do the whole thing on camera, but basically I'll just go in there and then it'll really help cut that down a little bit. All right. Here we are, this way. All right, so now we are getting ready to stuff. So I have the biggest box of polyfill in human history. Let's see. And it's so jam full down here, it's like hard for me to pull pieces out, so I'm gonna start little by little here. I've gotten this giant box, and I've barely made a dent in it. So, oh, Carol, have a good night. All right, Bobby, it's really only clean in one spot, I promise. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna actually start little at a time. I found if you just jam a ton at one time, it's kind of hard to control how it moves and it kind of gets lumpy. So I like to start with kind of a little bit at a time, like a handful at a time, instead of a giant clump. That's just me. Just start with your hand, getting it in there. And it may look a little wonky at first as you start putting it in until you start getting it really stuffed. And that's okay, because we'll just add more stuffing. And then it'll kind of even it out. And you'll start to see when you're using little by little kind of where you need to add more stuffing. So I can see here, I'm really kind of sinking in there at the top. So I'm going to add a little more there at the top. And kind of use my hand to get it over where I want it to go. I also have these little tools too, can kind of help you stuff and like move the stuffing around. I find they're more helpful on mini stuffies. Usually I can just do it with my hand on the bigger sizes. But it will help you kind of move stuff around if you need to. So again, kind of just put it in there, stuff it where you want it to go. Honestly, these work out better if you don't overstuff, because they'll kind of start looking lumpy too, I think, if you overstuff it. So you want to have it to be nice and squishy, but you don't need it to be like bursting at the seams with stuffing. All right, so I feel like I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm liking where I'm at stuffing wise. So we have our big turning hole here. We left that piece long, so it's easy for us to tuck it under. And so here's where I'm at. So I'm gonna kind of fold it over for a second, and I'm gonna use clips just to kind of gauge where I'm at stuffing wise. This is like my trial run here. So put a couple clips in where you have your turning hole closed under. And take a peek at how you have the stuffing if you like it. So I do need some more over here on this edge. So I'm going to leave that top clip on just so I don't start all the way over. And I'm just going to put a little more there and there. And see. Kind of like that where it is. So let's see. Yeah. And kind of like that where that is stuffing wise now. And see, I did little by little, so you'll see it's not really lumpy like if you kind of just start jabbing and putting gobs in there at one time. I could do a little tiny bit more there, right at the turning hole. And since you kept that excess there, that fabric, and you didn't trim it down, it's going to be way easier for you to get that closed. All right, so you have a couple options here with closing. Is you can either hand stitch that closed like a ladder stitch. I'm really bad at hand stitching things closed. No one wants me to do that, so I'm not going to do that for you. I'm not going to put you through that because it will be miserable. And you'll be like, well, what is she doing? I am going to glue it. So I am using Fabri-Tac glue. You can use any kind of like strong fabric glue. I wouldn't recommend hot glue, one, because it kind of comes apart. It doesn't really absorb into the fabric. Also, it's super messy. So with this, since I may have concerns I need to add more stuffing, I'm going to start at one side of this. So I'm going to have it clipped just so I see where I'm at. And make sure it's down in there so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start at this bottom part here. So I've got a hole from here to here. I'm going to start like 1/3 of this. So I'm going to open my Fabri-Tac up. And I need some kind of scrap material. Perfect to wipe my lid off as I go here. So get it down in there. It always takes a second to kind of work its way into the nozzle because it's kind of thicker. Make sure I got some coming through. All right, so now from here I'm actually going to go kind of down in there, not on the very tippy edge because I don't want it to like get oozing out. So I'm going to kind of go here down in just a little bit around, and then I'm going to take the fabric actually and I'm going to squeeze it like this before I pull it out to keep it from kind of globbing out on me. And then I'm going to put my clip that I had, which of course I lost in that time frame, there. All right, and I realized when I started gluing I didn't mention closing for minis. Closing is the same, but I did want to talk about the materials. Anyways, I'm a Hot Mess Express. So we're going to pretend that I have a mini. So before we would add our backing, we would have had our tab. Imagine this is like 1 inch long. I guess I should cut it. I didn't want to cut this down in case I wanted to use it later, but I have a piece of fold over elastic that's like less than 3 inches. And what you'll see when you're stitching this up on the mini in the hoop, there'll be a little line there to show you placement for your tab. So once you stitch that placement line down, grab your elastic and position that raw edge right over that placement line. And then you're going to run the next step to tack that down. And then when you're done, I like these little gadgets I was talking about before from So Hungry Hippie. I think Glitterbug Fairy has them too. I would just loop that through and then hang it. The other option that I was mentioning was these little guys. So this will be after your whole thing stitched out. What you can do is, imagine here we are on the front side and I didn't stitch that all the way closed. I start gluing it. I'm going to get myself an upholstery needle, tapestry needle. I'm going to put that through. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push it through the top. We're going to pretend here. Push it through. And then I'm going to pull that raw edge to the inside. Loop it through my little plastic thing. Thread the other half of that cording and do the same thing so that my raw edges are inside. Turn it inside out again and just tie those down. So this would be hanging off here. That way you don't have to worry about stitching any kind of hardware close to it. That's an option too. So sorry I didn't mention that before. I should have done that before I started doing the closing for the large one, but you get the idea here. All right, so we're back to gluing. So we glued that one little section here. Now I'm going to move on to this kind of middle section here. You can see the glue's already starting to take hold here. I'm going to throw my lid on the floor too. All right, so same thing. I'm just going to kind of get in there. Don't want to be too close to the edge. Just give it a little line and then use your fabric to squeeze as you pull that out and then clip it again. And then go down to your bottom thing here. This is your last chance. If you wanted to add more stuffing in, you can do that. I kind of like where I am. I think once I get it done and kind of move it over, it'll be fine. So I got my last little hole here. Same thing. I'm going to get my glue in here. Make sure I'm on camera so you can see. Just get it down in there. Just a little bit. Don't over glue it. Squeeze it. And then clip it. And then leave that dry about 24 hours. Maybe less. I've done less before too. And then you can double check it to make sure that like you did glue all those sections. You can add more glue if you need to, but what you'll notice is, you can see, there's no glue oozing out from my edges here. So it's a much neater kind of way to do it. You can always add more. You want to get a little closer to the edge, but this gives you a good starting point too. And usually I find it's enough, but that way you're not getting glue oozing out on you and kind of making a sticky mess on the side or just getting crusty when it's dried. And then take a second, you would trim up your jumps. And that's it. There's the back. There's the front. Obviously it needs to dry. And this will be a little less lumpy once I get these clips off and kind of just squish and adjust the stuffing a little bit too. But that's it. There is our little pencil. So I want to see what you guys stitched out this week too, the you that were stitching along. But that's all I have for you guys this week. We'll get ready for In the Hoop bags next week. He is really cute. We'll get ready for In the Hoop bags when I get back in 2 weeks. And I will have it designed for you the Friday before we do it. So hope everyone enjoyed themselves and hopefully this was helpful. Stuffies are super fun, especially minis go pretty quick too. Oh, one last thing. If you're making minis, you can totally use the stuffing I just did, but you can also get this poly pellet if you like the kind of heavier ones. They're these little plastic, they're kind of weighted too, so you can see on camera these little beads. They're fun to put in the minis too. I think it would take a ton of them to do in the bigger one, but they're a fun option for the minis too, and you can get them on Amazon. But I typically use polyfill for the bigger ones, and then I go back and forth with the pellets and the polyfill for the minis. So, all right, that really is all I have tonight. So if you have any more questions I didn't answer, please pop them down in the comments and I will do my best to get back to them. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope everyone has a fantastic week. And I'll be around till Wednesday, so hopefully I'll see you popping around in the group too and show me your makes. And thanks for joining me. All right, everyone. Bye-bye.